Lakewood, Ohio. And you're listening to BBQ Central.
Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
Irreverent. Entertaining. Cool. You're listening to the only radio that matters. BBS Talk Radio. In a world permeated by barbecue websites under the control of tyrannical administrators, there was one man, a one-man army, who allowed his members to speak out, give their input, and make the website what it is today. The man, Greg Rempe. The website, thebarbecuecentral.com. The Barbecue Centralites demanded more. They wanted to hear him interviewing the top names in the barbecue industry, and they wanted to call in their questions live on the air. Once again, he came through and made the rest of the barbecue websites on the net his. It's the Barbecue Central Show on BBS Talk Radio with your host, Greg Rempe. Kick it.
Welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. How long have you been around? Can anyone place this open? Can anybody place the year of this open? Some of you have never even heard this open ever in the history of this show. But believe it or not, way back, a very long time ago, this was one of the many previous show opens that has now been firmly stabilized with Cell Dwellers intro music that you would typically hear at this part of the show. However, we're experiencing a little bit of nostalgia here this evening because, believe it or not, back in February of 2008, in fact, dare I say right off the top, February 7th, 2008, the very first live Barbecue Central show came off on BBS Talk Radio, hence the reference in the open to my man Scott Greenia back then, or Scotty DeQ, as some of you might have remember him from days past on barbecue forums when those were a thing. Remember, that's how the show actually got started. There was never any show. There was only a barbecue forum. And then to set myself apart from other existing barbecue forums out there, I started getting the podcasting. That was somewhere in the 2006 range. And then in 2008, February 7th, 2008, we launched the show in its live format. And now entering its 15th year, we haven't looked back. We have seen so many barbecue and grilling shows come, and then I have watched them all summarily go right the fuck out the door. That's right.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Entering the 15th year of live shows, and as I was trying to put together a few items to talk about here this evening in the open, I'm like, you know what? I can't foresee an instance where this show wouldn't be happening 5 years from now, 10 years from now. 10 years from now, I'll be 58 years old. I don't know if anybody wants to see an almost 60-year-old hosting the Barbecue Central show, but who else is going to host it? So at this stage of the game, I'm in no less of a motivated mindset. To me, the show is only now reaching the stages of where I would want it to be in order to now grow it. I think we've figured out a system finally after the first 14 years. And now it's time to really ramp it up over the next 14 years. And hopefully right around this time, 14, 15 years from now, I'll be saying we're opening up our 30th. Can you imagine 30 years of live streaming? That would be something else. 15 years from now, oh boy, now I got to do the math. That would be like 63 years old, right? 15 years from now, I'm 48. Yeah, I think that's right. 63. Look at me, math major. Did major in math in college, but I'm pulling it out right now. Well, addition, I know, very tough. So thank you for coming along for the ride over the last 14 years, or wherever you fit in that journey. And that's tonight's YouTube question, which I'll get to here in a second. But appreciate all of you that have even tuned in only once on podcast back in 2006. You listened to whatever show it was, and that was enough for you. But you were a one-time listener, so that's great. So let's get through the traditional rigmarole here. You know where the show's from. You know what we do here. But here's the setup for this evening. It is the first Tuesday of a month. Who better to share this special anniversary date with than my pal Malcom Reed from To BBQ Right, who's in the barbecue game much longer than I am. But we're right around the same time frame as far as this whole media thing is concerned. But, of course, Malcom is also into competition barbecue, which I think is where his fame was originally derived from. But now he is also a YouTube sensation, of course, and a barbecue business store owner or barbecue supply store. So he's in the business of barbecue as well, the rubs and all that fun stuff. So Malcom will be in here in a few short minutes. And then 35 past the hour. He was in a couple times last year for his first and then second visit. He's opened a pizza place here in Lakewood, Ohio. If it's going to be about Cleveland, I am always going to pimp Cleveland. Ben Bebenroth from Boom's Pizza will be here. And just sound checking yesterday, Ben is in rare energy. We're going to be talking about pizza stuff that's going to make your head spin. It's not going to be the same old stuff. What they are going through just in their dough process. I don't know how many of you are pizza nerds. I thought I was a fairly deep pizza nerd. Not Matt Frampton type nerdy, but more nerdy than the normal pizza eater. I like to go a few levels beneath the crust, if you will. Ben is at a whole different level, his business partner at a whole different level, and you're going to be very excited to hear what Ben has to say 35 past the first hour. Then we'll move to the second hour, and joining me is the grand champ of the San Antonio Barbecue Cook-Off from Chicken Fried Barbecue, Bill Purvis, a very hot commodity on the competition circuit. He's cooking different sanctioning bodies, which I always appreciate as we talk about who the best competition barbecuer is. I know Myron Mixon says that he's the winningest man in barbecue, but as we look over a career and I start to think about who the best barbecue competitors are, I would say that Myron Mixon is right there at the top, not just because he claims that he's the winningest man in barbecue, but if you look through competition results, when he was really banging them out, he was competing in Kansas City Barbecue Society and winning grand championships there. He was competing in Florida Barbecue Association. He was winning grand championships in there. Obviously, Memphis Barbecue Network and then the non-associated Memphis in May competitions, winning grand championships and team of the years in MBN as well. So I don't know if there is a more accomplished winner in competition barbecue than Myron Mixon. Maybe Malcom has another name he can throw at me, but when you look at a guy who goes from sanctioning body to sanctioning body to sanctioning body to big events and then takes them down, not just competes, but is winning them, those are very far and few between. So Bill Purvis is a guy that is really enjoying success. He's obviously got something right because he is successful. He was on one of the episodes of Barbecue USA, so we may or may not hit on that as well, as there is a season 2 for sure. And then with whatever remaining time we have left in the show, I had a bunch of stuff that I was looking to get to in the 35 past the second hour segment last week, but Doug was in. He was a little chatty, which I certainly appreciated, and we were just able to close out 2 segments with Doug. So that's how the show is setting up. Don't forget you can follow me socially at BBQ Central Show, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat. We say good evening to those of you watching tonight. through one of our streaming video platforms. You can go to Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show to watch. Also, you can take the show in via YouTube /RD Rempe, where there is a new poll this week. And here we go. How long have you been a Centralite? How long have you been listening to the Barbecue Central Show? Your choices are as follows: 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, and 11 years plus. Currently, it is a tie, 38% saying 1 to 5 and 6 to 10, and 25% of you are saying you're in it for the long haul, 11 plus years. Now, that is some type of commitment, but I would love to hear from the 11 plus years. Is it just that you've never ventured out and tried to find any other barbecue and grilling related podcast? You heard me and that was it. You fell in love, hook, line, and sinker, and you refuse to look. The eyes will not stray. I hope that's the answer. I hope that's the answer. However, even 60% of you at 6 years plus is incredible. That's a long time audience. However you're catching the show, maybe next week we'll do, have you ever watched the show, or how many of you watched the show live just one time in your life? Alan F. in the instant chat saying it's because I am the best, which I certainly appreciate, Alan, saying that. But, again, it's a long time. Bill Rempe, my dad, asking, is Whiskey Bent still in the action? Whiskey Bent? No, sir. That's a long time gone. Chad, very busy. I believe he's down at Super Bowl this week, hanging out with the likes of the Dan Patrick Show, helping them make succulent treats and savory meats. So I don't think the Whiskey Bent Barbecue in the Pit has the time, or I don't think Chad has the time. But he's hanging out with Dan Patrick, so that's a pretty good trade-off. I might hang out with Dan Patrick and trade off a show or two. All right, Malcom Reed is ready to rock. Before we get to him, I believe that registration is closed. However, since 1991, the National Barbecue and Grilling Association has been the voice of the barbecue and grilling industry by helping members network and learn from proven professionals. Leader Cal Phelps looking to take the history of the organization and move it to new heights and successes here in 2023 and beyond as they start with their NBBQA annual convention, which is currently open for registration. Actually, I believe it's closed, as I just mentioned. However, you can check me out at nbbqa.org. And then it's all right there on the main page for you to further validate. Now, if you're someone in the barbecue business, if you're somebody in the grilling business, if you're looking to stay on top of trends, market your business better, learn from folks who have done it right and continue to evolve in the market that itself is ever changing, this would be a conference you would want to attend. It starts Wednesday, February 15th, so we're just a little over a week out. Runs the Saturday, the 18th. It's being held at the beautiful Wyndham Orlando Resort and Conference Center in the Celebration area of Orlando, if you're familiar. If you didn't make reservations, then you can't take advantage of being around the most successful people in the barbecue industry for those 4 days. You could walk right up to folks like Mo Cason or Dr. Barbecue or Mark Lambert or Tuffy Stone. The list goes on. You could ask them questions you would want to have answered. You would have then been surprised at how approachable and open they are to helping you succeed in the industry. They believe that the rising tide theory, lifting all ships, why not? Once again, you probably missed out on registering, but it is February 15th through the 18th next week in Orlando, nbbqa.org. Again, just to double check me for all the information. If you aren't a member, by the way, consider joining. You can have access to videos if you can't make it to certain events, and you can take it all in on-demand video right there on the website, nbbqa.org. That's nbbqa.org. We're back with Malcom Reed right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. You visit their website, Cookin Pellets, COOKIN, cookinpellets.com, and you can see all the blends that they're offering, all the other products that they're offering as well. The good folks over at cookinpellets.com trying to line up Chris Becker to come on and talk about some new pellets that are coming to market. He's got some new products as well, but we'll continue to chase him down and get him pinned in for a segment here before the first half of the year comes to an end. Joining me now, the first Tuesday of the month, 14 past the hour, guest, creator of How to BBQ Right, pitmaster of Killer Hogs competition team, Malcom Reed, joining us. Malcom, did you think that just by sheer happenstance you would be celebrating the beginning of the 15th year of live Barbecue Central shows here this evening?
I'm not surprised, Greg. You've had a wonderful show, man. I've been a fan for all those years. So
I was going to say, the YouTube question of the night is, how long have you been listening to the show? Is it 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10, or 11 plus? Where do you fit into that?
I'm in the 11 plus, man.
Yeah.
I've been around, yeah.
Long time. So we got a lot of stuff to get to. I was taking in the most recent episode of the How to BBQ Right podcast. By the way, if you're fans of mine, casual fans of Malcom, they are back to producing new episodes every week. The first 2 of season, I believe, 6 is out now, so you have a couple to listen to if you haven't been keeping up with your subscription updates. What in the hell is a king cake?
Oh, you don't know about king cakes, Greg?
No,
come on, man.
I live in Cleveland.
I gotta send you one. Yeah. No, it's so classically, okay, you know Mardi Gras, the big celebration down in New Orleans, it's accumulates with Fat Tuesday before everybody gives something up for Lent, So king cake is it's kind of like a dessert pastry that people eat during that time of year, and they probably eat them year round in New Orleans. I don't know, but they're famous during Mardi Gras time. That's usually when we get them up in Mississippi. But it's if I had to describe it, it's kind of somewhere between a cinnamon roll and a Danish kind of. It's this braided layer of flaky cake that they put icing on. Sometimes they stuff it, sometimes they don't. They sprinkle the colored sugars on it. Then
And were Rochelle and Tyler talking about one of them having a baby in it?
So that's kind of part of the tradition. They have these, and I don't know what they did years ago when they first came up with it, but now it's like this little tiny plastic infant, newborn baby, and they put it inside the cake after it's cooked, of course, before you take it to the party or serve it. Whoever gets the slice with the baby in it, it's good luck. You're responsible for bringing the king cake to the next party, and you're kind of important for the year or whatever.
Wow. So the only thing food-wise, and this would be in the sweets out. Now, notoriously, I'm not a big sweet eater per se, maybe a cookie here and there, but I'm always more of a fan of something that is less sweet. I like, vinegar stuff. I like savory stuff, but sweet and especially desserts isn't typically my kind of thing, but every once in a while I'll go nuts. The thing that I most associate pastry-wise with Mardi Gras, I don't know if I say it right, but the punchki, which is, it looks like it's kind of a jelly-filled donut, but it's a little bit maybe more yeasty or, something Cajun-esque. Is that something you guys have down there as well?
That's in the range of what, a whole king cake would be like. I've seen those. Oh. I've never heard the name punchki. That's new to me.
Yeah, punchki.
But I've seen the pastries you're talking about. Yeah.
That's what we get up here, and they can't be authentic because the Giant Eagle grocery store, which, of course, is Pittsburgh-based, which we hate, but that's where it's based. They're baking them, right on site, so it's not even like they're trucking them up from El Dumont down there in New Orleans or, somewhere that would be authentic. But, they seem to sell like crazy. To me, it's like a dessert version of the McRib. It only shows up right around this time, and then right at the end of the month, you never see him again until this time next year. And everybody goes crazy. But they're, stuffed with some weird stuff like, mince meat or prunes, dates, things like this. Again, I mean, it's just something I'm probably not going to get after. I like lemon, again, a little bit more sour kind of stuff. But that's the only thing I really King Cake took me by surprise this morning when I was getting my workout in, and I was like, I'm going to have to ask him right off the bat what this King Cake is, because I've never seen it up here. But maybe I could do a little research and see if we can't find a New Orleans-based baker up here in Bomb City, USA, and grab one here before it's over. The other thing I want to ask you about, you had said earlier in the most recent podcast that you're a big indoor cooker right now because really you're forced to be indoors. You've also succumbed to some of the ice storms, maybe not the size of Texas and the issues that they were, but you've had some ice coverings there. So you're cooking inside, and you're perfecting burnt-ass chicken. So what is a burnt-ass chicken, and is there a formal recipe at this point?
Yeah, I mean, the burnt-ass chicken started back in my early competition days. There was a contest in South Haven. Y'all have heard me say Springfest before. That was the first contest I started cooking. They had an ancillary chicken contest. It wasn't like these KCBS, chicken thigh contest or whatever. But I started doing burnt-ass chicken, and all it was boneless, skinless thighs. I had like one of these little Aussie Outback grills, the kind that's kind of square and they fold and stuff. I would throw some match light or something on it.
Oh, wow.
And I would get the fire, get it hot as I could get that little grill, glowing red. I had these boneless, skinless thighs that I would marinate in Italian dressing, like the cheap, zesty Italian. And then I would throw them on the grill and burn the crap out of them until they were charred up. And then when they were done, I'd dunk them in sauce and throw them back on there and burn them a little more. Oof. And then we would arrange them in the box with like this bell pepper that was Waylon kind of fancy cut flames and stuff into it. And I could pour some sauce into it so they could dunk the burnt-ass chicken in it. And we just would win with that burnt-ass chicken in all these contests.
Wow.
And
light and everything?
Oh, everything. Yeah, we didn't care. We were a drinking team back then. I mean, it was just we were turning in something. But it became one of those things people wanted to know where the burnt-ass chicken was. And that's where burnt-ass chicken came from.
And now it's living in your air fryer.
Man, I'll tell you what, being wintertime down here, we've had some cold weather. It's warmed up now. It was 70 degrees today. But I had to learn to cook inside, and then we've had an air fryer sitting on our counter for years, probably since that first Ninja air fryer came out. We never really used it. And I started using it and cooking, chicken strips for Michael and easy things like that. But I started seeing these recipes on TikTok. People were doing thighs and, pieces of chicken and salmon. And so I started cooking some other stuff in it, man. And I'll tell you what, I am a huge fan of the air fryer. Now, it's perfect for a small family like me, Rochelle, and Michael. If you got a big family, I mean, you'd have to do a bunch of cooking in one. But for a small family, you could turn out some good stuff in that little air fryer, man.
When it's in the midst of cooking, is it not puking out a lot of smoke, or is it somehow like re-eating it?
It's ninja magic, man. I don't know. It's up under my cabinet. I hadn't noticed any.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, so, my daughters will use it similarly to, how, Michael's going to use it for just quick stuff, or maybe they're going to do some potatoes in it, French fries, what have you. But, they're sometimes a little lazy, so it was sitting underneath. The cabinets are above it, and it was just plugged in and run. And the exhaust is in the back. And, 8 minutes, 10 minutes into the cook, after a couple different times, I'm like, wait a second, something doesn't seem right. And I look over, and it's tucked up underneath. And I'm like, hey, you got to pull that thing out, because, like, the heat's blasting in the back, and it had warped some of the backsplash work that we had done in the kitchen, just like the little seam that keeps it all nice and nice and tight looking. Well, that had warped and started to come off the wall, and so I had to teach the kids how to pull the air fryer off the wall and actually, let it vent properly. But there's a guy here in Cleveland who's got a radio show. He's a broadcast Hall of Famer here locally, Jimmy Malone. This guy swears. We've had internet fights on Twitter about how he says the best steak he's ever had, he cooks in an air fryer. Have you had an air fryer steak ever?
I've had those. I've got a set of little grill grates that fit in mine. And can you cook a steak in it? Yes. Is it close to anything you can cook on a grill? No, absolutely not.
Wow.
It's like a George Foreman type steak. I mean, you can eat it, but it's not, it's not anywhere close to what you could do on a grill.
Well,
or even a cast iron skillet.
Jimmy is relentless on his proselytization of air fryer steaks and tells me you're a snob, and until you try it, then you shouldn't be throwing stones. And I said, well, I mean, it's just probably not going to happen, but I'm certainly not going to tell you that it's not Here's what I know. If you come to my house and I cook you a steak, if you think what you're cooking in the air fryer is that good, you're probably going to pass out with delight when you eat the steak that I pull off the grill. It's going to be like the best thing you've ever had. So maybe I get him over to the house someday and we'll go from there. Let's transit. Oh, let me ask you one other question. You were talking about you were making gumbo. So first part of that is making a roux. And then you had also mentioned you used to watch Emeril Lagasse back in the old days when he was on probably Food Channel at the time when he was becoming a big star and learning how to make a roux there. I only thought making a roux was melting butter and flour. I just happened to see Emeril on a TikTok or something 2 days ago, and then the next day I'm listening to you talk about it on the podcast. You start with oil.
Oil and flour, yeah, usually equal parts.
But never
equal parts.
Is butter roux, is that a thing, or is that for something else?
I mean, so a roux is fat and flour. So butter is your fat, and if you start with butter and you use flour, that's the start of a bechamel sauce. You make a really good sauce with it. But butter has you're going to burn it before it'll get to the good roux stage. That's why you need to use a oil or a fat that can take a little bit of a higher heat, because you're cooking it for a long time, and that's where you get your color and your depth of flavor. That's what's going to add to your gumbos, your stews, your etouffees, dishes like that. It gives it a lot of flavor. It's a thickening agent to it, and it's quintessential, Cajun Creole cooking. You got to know how to make a roux.
Well, this is why you're the expert here, because as soon as you said it's the beginning of the bechamel sauce, I immediately remembered that every time, you know what I'm making? Mac and cheese. Absolutely. So totally
for
makes
Alfredo
sense.
Sauce.
That's right. Now, I agree with you. We have a huge game coming up for those people that love NFL football. Just in general, maybe your team probably didn't make it. I mean, as you consider how many teams are in the NFL, there's a good chance your team didn't make it in. Certainly the Browns didn't make it in, and I know your Vikings didn't make it in. But I think Super Bowl Sunday should also be moved to Saturday. I might not be attuned to your start time of like noon or 1. I wouldn't mind seeing it like at 5 o'clock, so you can maybe build into a dinner beforehand or something set for halftime, things of this nature. But why not save Sunday for recovery instead of the big call-off day like you were talking about? I totally agree with that. So I thought for the remainder of the time here this evening, we take a stab at the two teams that are in the game. So we have Kansas City Chiefs, we have Philadelphia Eagles, and what you would suggest for making for each, for what they're known for. What's Kansas City known for? Of course, it's one of the barbecue meccas. Kansas City and barbecue hand in hand, many different flavors and proteins out there. It's not just one or the other. They're kind of a melting pot. So as you look at Kansas City, I guess give me your thoughts on where they fit in as potentially winning this game, and then what you would be serving if you're doing a Kansas City-based menu.
Well, barbecue has to be it. When I think of Kansas City, I think of that. It's sweet, it's tangy, but for some reason, this burnt ends jumps out at me. That's kind of where they get credit for being the burnt ends. So I would have to do something with burnt ends for Kansas City. Maybe a big, Kansas City po' boy with burnt ends and, maybe some slaw or something like that on it, some pickles, some kind of way, make a huge, big sandwich. But I also thought about a Kansas City hot wing. Why couldn't you do a smoked version of a barbecue wing and incorporate, some hot sauce and that butter element into your barbecue sauce, that sweet and tangy barbecue sauce, and make some really killer wings for it. You can't go wrong with it. I don't really think of like pulled pork when I think of Kansas City. I think of ribs, I think of St. Louis cut ribs. I know they're not Kansas City cut, but
so if you're
that's kind of what comes to my mind.
If you're hosting a party at your house, I agree with you. First thing that comes to my mind, I didn't think about burn ends until you said it, and then, of course, that made complete sense for Kansas City, but I was thinking ribs right off the bat. So is that something that you can really do in advance? For instance, you had mentioned pulled pork and how you're not associating that with Kansas City, but you can cook that, take everything off by noon. You could hold it until 6 or 7 o'clock in a dry cooler if you had to, and it's still going to be safe. It's still going to be hot, probably burn your hands. Is that something you can similarly do with ribs, or you need a much tighter window in order to still have a good end product?
I always say you could get 1 to 2 hours out of ribs, and that's about for them to be absolutely best. You know what I mean? Of course, you can still eat them 5, 6 hours later if you wanted to, but they're not going to be as good. Ribs cook pretty quick, man. You can cook ribs in 3.5, 4 hours from start to finish. You know, cook them a little bit hotter, render them really good, and get them tender.
Are you a fan of cutting them in advance?
Into individual bones?
Yeah.
I've only done that to deep fry them. I've never done it to smoke them. But I have seen some people do that here lately to kind of speed the process up. To me, anytime you go slicing on them, or any cut of meat like that, you're cutting it, giving it more surface area, and you're going to let juices escape. So I think it would be drier, I think, and I just don't think it'd be as good as cooking it as a whole rack. Could be wrong. I've never tried it, but
I would follow your line of questioning. As soon as you start breaking stuff down, as soon as you start pulling the pork butt, as soon as you start slicing the brisket, things are going to have a tendency to dry out much quicker than if it remains intact. So I'm with you on that. The other team that is taking part in the Super Bowl is Philadelphia Eagles. To me, first thing that jumps out is Philly cheesesteak, of course. I don't know where you're at there.
Already knew where you were going.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So do you have any favorite Philly cheesesteak recipes or cheesesteak specific recipes?
Man, I actually recorded one this week for TikTok, but I got the inspiration from one of my local favorite wing places called Mr. P's. They have a Philly cheesesteak burger. And so it is a big burger on a hamburger bun topped with Philly cheesesteak, with the peppers, with the onions, with the whiz all drizzled over it.
Wow.
Pickles, mayo, onions, the works underneath the hamburger patty. It is a man-size Philly appetite burger.
Holy moly.
And so I made one of those, and I hadn't released the video yet. It'll probably come out before the Super Bowl. But cheesesteaks, man, who doesn't love them? Thinly sliced steak on a flat top. It cooks fast. You can do your vegetables on the side. I like mine with the mushrooms, onions, peppers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. I like it topped with the cheese whiz or the cheese sauce. I like it with provolone. I've had it pizza style where they do the marinara and the mozzarella on it. I've never been to Philly, but I've ate a lot of Philly cheesesteaks in my life.
Are you a fan of steakums for cheesesteaks, or is that bad news?
I haven't had those. My mom used to buy them, Greg. It's probably been 30 years. We have. So what I'm a fan of, I found our grocery store, Kroger, started selling this. It's called thinly sliced steaks for cheesesteak, I guess. But it comes in a little tray. It is shaved. I'm sure it's not ribeye, but it's shaved steak, super thin. And when you break it up and put it out on the flat top, it acts just like a steak. It's not on like wax paper that you peel off.
Yeah.
But it's good stuff. And they even do a pork version, and I think they do a chicken. So you could do a chicken Philly. You could do a pork Philly.
These are our suggestions for you to take a hold of here on a Tuesday evening or Wednesday if you listen to the podcast, and get your grocery lists ready for Super Bowl weekend. It's Philly cheesesteaks on the Philly side, and then a barbecue for Kansas City. On the other side, we're recommending burnt ends, ribs maybe, and a Kansas City wing. Why not? Or a big po' boy sandwich, as Malcom said, as well. Malcom can be found over at howtobbqright.com. Subscribe to him over at his YouTube channel, where 1.5 million of you are already doing that. Follow him socially at the same handle. Malcom, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in March.
Hey, we'll see you next month, Greg. Have a good one, man.
All right, Malcom, there he is. Our pal, Malcom Reed, kicking off the beginning of the 15th year of live shows here at the Barbecue Central Show. HowToBBQRight.com, once again, is his website, but of course, all of you know that. Ben Bebenroth appears to be ready to go to talk a little Boom's Pizza. Before we get to him, I will tell you about Pits and Spits. Some of the best looking, best cooking smokers and grills on the market. Pits and Spits offers a fun family of products, including traditional offset smokers, wood pellet grills, charcoal grills, travel grills, combination pits, fire pits, and much more. Pits and Spits has been one of the only American fabrication shops that's focused only on smokers and grills for the last 40 years. Why is that important? They put an emphasis on quality and design, locally sourced materials, unmatched attention to detail, from the fully welded barrels to the heavy gauge steel. They bring both a function and beauty to life. Pits and Spits builds every product with the intention that it's going to get passed down from generation to generation. Whether you're in competition barbecue or you just want to take that backyard barbecue and grilling game to the next level, the answer is Pits and Spits, and there is a product for you in their lineup. Check them out at pitsandspits.com, all spelled out PITTSANDSPITTS, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central, and use promo code BBQ Central for a free spice pack when you order $500 or more worth of stuff. If you order a cooker, rest assured you're going to get that spice pack for free. You'll definitely have accumulated over $500. Once again, it's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. And then promo code at checkout after you accumulate $500 or more for the free spice pack, which is delicious. Who likes pizza? I like pizza. Let's talk pizza. We'll be right back with Ben Bebenroth from Boom's Pizza. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
And we thank Malcom Reed for joining us the last segment. This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or connect via Bluetooth. If you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck. Fireboard fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com or call them 816-945-2232. My next guest tonight made a few tremendous appearances last year, and he's starting out with a bang here in 2023. There has been a recurring theme on the show with me and my unwavering love of pizza. I have long said that even a bad pizza is still pretty good pizza. Tonight's guest has just opened his new pizza place here in Bomb City, west side suburb of Lakewood, Ohio. You might know him from Spice Acre Farms, but tonight you will know him as one of the men over at Boom's Pizza. And when I can pimp anything here in Bomb City, USA, I will pimp everything here in Bomb City, USA. Let's welcome back Ben Bebenroth. Ben, the last time you were on the show, we hit a little bit on this venture, but other than a real commitment to wanting to do this thing, there was nothing overly tangible at that time, but things have changed. Boom's Pizza, now open for 2 weeks today. You know what? We have a in-kind anniversary date, Ben. It is the beginning of the 15th year of live shows here at the Barbecue Central Show and the second full week of live operation over at Boom's Pizza. So, 2 weeks in, how are things going? Wait. I don't hear you. Are you on mute? No. No, still mute. No. Did you try the little reconnect thing? To hear. So let's try this. If you want to try like closing all the way out and coming back in again, that might fix it. Yeah, go ahead and do that. And we'll wait for Ben to come back in. What if that's one of his kids? Like, hey. We sound checked it yesterday, and he sounded great.
Okay, dude.
There we go.
Yes!
Winner. Boom's Pizza for dinner. There you go. All right.
Appreciate
Keep
you.
that kid around.
Yeah. He's a good one. He's a keeper.
No doubt. So as I was saying, you're 2 weeks in now. So tell me how the first 2 weeks are treating Boom's Pizza.
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I am just blown away by the pace of business, man. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm really mostly impressed with the attitude of people. Like, we're just getting such a warm embrace. And as you said, dude, people in Cleveland love a good pie.
Yeah.
So the pace of people and then coming back multiple times inside of the first couple of weeks is pretty incredible, man.
Ben, can you do a 180 with the microphone there and see, you might, yeah.
I was going to try this.
Yes, that's 100% better. All right. So a warm welcome. We love pizza, of course. Of the pizzas available on the menu, has there been one right off the bat that has soared to the top of the most popular list?
Oh, dude, hot stuff and peps for sure.
Really?
We're using Ezzo pepperoni out of Columbus, using the cup and curls, and fresh shaved garlic over the top of it, basil, Mike's hot honey, Calabrian chilies. Dude, it's killer.
I wasn't overly familiar with the different variations of pepperoni. When I was talking to Matt Frampton the last time from Urban Slicer, he had started talking about cup and char. And all of a sudden, as soon as he had mentioned, it's like one of those things you never see this kind of a car. Somebody mentions it to you, and then all of a sudden you see 10,000 on the highway. Same thing with this kind of pepperoni. Is that the pizza standard at this point? The most popular pepperoni is the cup and char?
Oh, yeah. And furthermore, dude, Ezzo is one of the most outstanding sausage manufacturers in the country, right here in Columbus, Ohio. That's where all that Ezzo pepperoni, all that cup and curl comes from. Dude, they're so specific with the way they build those sausages based on your bake time and your bake temp as to what temperature it cups and what temperature, higher percentages of dextrose and things like that in there to get a quicker caramelization on it. Dude, Pizza Expo, even if you're not in the pizza business and you just love pizza, go to the Pizza Expo in Vegas or Atlantic City. You will have your mind blown.
So the sausage place is consulting with you and specking pepperoni to your specific cook?
No. You basically you walk up to their booth at the pizza show and they have cup and curl, cup and brown, cup and crisp, cup and char, and all these different benchmarks of performance of these things. Freaking fascinating, dude. I love learning about food. So it's just give me something else to learn.
Let's go ahead and back out for a second. As I had mentioned a few minutes ago, this has been on the table for a while. So who else is involved in the business with you? And then why do you and whoever the stakeholders / business partners are decide you guys can build a better pizza in a city that has so many pizza options?
Oh, well, okay. So my partner, Chief Culinary Officer Jonathan Bennett, formerly of the Red and Moxie Empire in Cleveland and multiple other states. Just an amazing culinarian, really dynamic, to the gram food scientist, if you will, and just a fundamentally amazing cook, great profit-oriented chef. These are things that I'm very feelings forward. I kind of do what I think is right. I do what I feel is right. I don't really run a lot of spreadsheets and dwell over numbers a lot. Hence the farm and the lamb cookers across the street, right? Not a lot of P&Ls going on around that lamb cooking business. But, JB and I got together during the pandemic over asparagus harvest, actually. I was running a U-Pick here, and he came over, and we just started talking about what the new world of food is going to look like, right? We both spent 20 years in fine dining, and it was the meticulous, endless pursuit of excellence in fine dining is what drove us as chefs. And it was man, if we leverage that same mentality, that same process focus and pursuit of excellence around pizza, can't stop us. And you said something before, even a bad pizza is a pretty decent piece of pizza. the window of success for pizza is so vast, and there are so many styles. And PS, 9.75% of all purchases in a restaurant in the United States are pizza. So it's the largest category of restaurants in the country. So really, getting my ass kicked on fine dining for 10 years, basically, at Spice Kitchen. Loved the job, loved the cooks I helped and the food we created, but really never put up any money at all. Like, it was just enough to run again the next year. And I don't know, man, you get your dick knocked in the dirt like that over the pandemic and you got some time to think about it. You know what I mean? It's like, shit, what did I trade all these family memories for? I better start like doing a business that I can scale and create an environment and a product that I can like really hang my hat on. And instead of trying to master all these different arts of fermentation, smoking, baking and pastry, agriculture, it's like to just get a foundational, amazing pizza crust and blow that thing out of the fucking water. That's what I'm after.
So as far as Spice is concerned, is that now not an operation? You've become enamored with being able to take the things that you are really passionate about and now put them into a business that is more of a revenue / profit producer?
Well, no, Spice Catering is still raging. We're busier than ever. Doing amazing work. Spice Field Kitchen, our nonprofit, we're teaching a ton of kids, 7,500 kids we've educated about food nutrition and healthy soil. And the farm is still a great wedding venue. And we grow a lot of products here, specifically mostly for the nonprofit and cooking demos. So all of those businesses are functioning. I guess what I'm saying is like, to really be passionate about a product is one thing, but then to always be stressing about money and profit really challenges that creative stance, right? It's tough to stay in a creative mindset when you're like freaking out about making payroll. So to be able to fund all that good that we do with the nonprofit, with Spice Field Kitchen and all the amazing catering things we've done, to have a business you can scale and fuel those things with that, oh man, now that's something that is really special.
So from concept of Boom's Pizza to actually opening the doors 2 weeks ago, what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Dude, we were 2 years in the making. And, that was probably a testament to JB and I's like endless pursuit of excellence. It was just kind of like, no shit, about 175 versions of dough, like all within pretty tight window of somewhere between New York and Neapolitan, but different flours, the addition of ascorbic acid, citric acid, like all these different tools to leverage. So yeah, we had about 150 odd recipes of dough before we went to the Pizza Expo, and then sat through 4 days of workshops and just really, really came away from that like, okay, now we can focus in on temperature, time, bulk ferment, all these types of really specific tools in pizza.
Ben Bebenroth joining us here on the show. Boom's Pizza, boomspizza.com is the website if you want to check it out, see what's on the menu. If you're going to be coming across the Cleveland area here in travels, because I assume most of you aren't directly here in Cleveland, but for those of you that are, get over there to Lakewood, check it out. Was there ever a time within that 2 years going to these shows and expos and talking with JB and all this other stuff that you're like, you know what, we're really good on this idea part, we're almost there, but we're just not going to be able to cross a bridge, and it was just going to go out in the field and die?
No.
Never.
No. Hell no.
Hell no.
I don't. I'm not starting something to give up on it. I have like kind of a disease of being attached to the future outcome of things. So no matter how shitty it is now, I know that we've already arrived at the promised land. We just have to get through this, And that whole time that we were working on pizza, dude, we started Keep the Change Kitchen Collective. That was a like remote food ordering ghost kitchen thing, just bringing nutritious food to the neighborhood and at a convenience point. We were catering. We were doing all these other things, getting the business going again. So it wasn't like we were just sitting around going out for pizza every Friday. It was like we were busy.
Yeah.
So that play of that investment money and the potential of creating better jobs for people and, dude, just creating better freaking pizza. there's so much commodity pizza in every city, and there's a line out the door for it. So it just felt like you start better quality flour and a scientific approach to dough and a little more respect and understanding of a cycle of fermentation. That's a big deal to separate yourself out from the masses.
We're going to talk about that whole separation when it comes to the dough making here in just a minute. Before we get to that, how do you come to Boom's Pizza for a name?
Oh, yeah, great question. So Boom was my grandfather's nickname when I was growing up. It was a nickname I gave him when I was like, I don't know, 3 or 4. Walked in up the driveway of his house in Parma, and he was hammering on something with a hammer, and I was like, boom, boom, boom. And then every kid called him Boom for the rest of his life. Like
wow.
Every grandkid. We had a lot of grandkids in the family. So yeah, I mean, over the pandemic, thinking about my grandfather growing up in the Great Depression and being a World War II vet, and wasn't super pumped on me joining the Marine Corps for obvious reasons. And, he'd come through a lot of hard times and came out teaching us all great lessons and raising a great family. And I don't know, it just kind of like sort of rocked me to my core. My whole career got kind of slammed into reverse, while going 90 miles an hour. And it was like, my grandfather would not have given up on this shit. He would have figured it out. And that's kind of what I did.
So that's the tagline too. Boom's Pizza, born of hard times, and it's all tracking back to your grandfather.
Yep.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Easy to find a place to call Boom's Pizza home, or pretty difficult?
No, that was pretty challenging, especially going through, through COVID. Real estate was all over the place. We thought we were going to see all these second gen spaces open up because of closures, but all the government money kept everybody open. Construction delays, supply chain issues. So no, that was not easy. But I feel like we landed in the perfect spot for us to launch from, corner Warren and Detroit, right in the heart of Lakewood. I don't know, dude. Almost every day I pull up to the shop and there's a line of people at 3:45 standing there waiting for the door to open. That's a freaking honor to see that,
It's like Texas barbecue, but for pizza here in Ohio.
What's that?
It's like Texas barbecue, but they're doing it for pizza here in Lakewood.
Dude, no doubt. I did joke around about a Burn Ends pizza, and JB's like, there's no freaking way we could afford to sell that here. But I think it could be done.
You just need to partner up with the guys down at Proper Pig a couple blocks down the way, and I'm sure there could be a little reciprocation there to help you at least game plan a few of those pizzas. For
sure. That's actually a great idea because we're doing a bunch of collabs. The first one we're going to do is with Cleveland Vegan, but that's a freaking good idea, dude. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, they're local, no doubt. From a remodel or a build-out standpoint, was this thing space-wise pretty ready to go, or do you have to invest quite a bit in it?
We poured a good bit into it, but we got some great savings out of it. It was previously Campbell's Popcorn Shop, so it already had 2 ADA bathrooms. It already had decent flooring. We were like, keep it. Kitchen tile was there, so we exacted some good savings there. Biggest expense for bringing in the power because we cook on a electric deck Pizza Master 932. So that's a 400 amp service to come in and run that oven. That was pretty pricey to pull that in.
So the next question was going to be, do you have the big, majestic, domed, imported from Italia pizza oven like a lot of these places have? The ones that come to mind are like a Citizen Pie here locally, or some of the other places that are doing your Neapolitan-style wood-fired, the whole rigmarole. Or did you break convention and do something else? So now that you've told us you've already broke convention, how do you decide on what you landed on, and why are you going away from running a wood fire and being the traditionalist?
Dude, that's a great question. So wood-fired oven, I mean, that's a purist pursuit. Classically a lifestyle business. To be a pizzaiolo and, split your wood, make your dough, throw your pies, stretch your skins. A lot of honor in that. Very difficult to scale that. So a chef I worked with in culinary school down in Charleston afterwards had several pizza shops in North Carolina, and he was like, dude, it's a tough thing to find somebody that can manage a fire and throw skins and bake pies. Like, it's a very unique skill set. So we went up to Chicago 2.5 years ago and went up to this place called Forza, and they import a bunch of pizza equipment, and we got to cook on different ovens. And it was like, as soon as we cooked on this Pizza Master, the rebound time is so fast. The heat is so intense. It's just like, and electric environment is a drier environment. So here's a tiny bit of science for you. Natural gas has a humidity to it.
Yep.
Right. There's an amount of moisture that's absorbed into that gas. And so when you're heating with gas, when you're cooking with gas, it's a boiled moisture coming into the environment, right, with the flame. And now you're trying to remove moisture from your pizza dough over your bake time. And that's what enables you to have a crispy crust, right? Then you put it in a box and it instantly starts dying again, right? Because it just rehydrates itself.
Yep.
So with electric is a drier heat, it's a more intense heat. And so we can regulate the top and the bottom heat much closer. And we're starting off with that basically 100% dry environment for baking.
Development of a pizza menu. When I talk to the guys and the gals that are opening barbecue restaurants, we always have a point in discussion where we talk about menu, and they always talk about how it was this big, and then they either opened and all of a sudden within a month it became this big. They saw what was really selling. Everybody was gonna buy everything off the menu, and then they quickly realized not everybody's gonna buy everything off the menu, and let's focus here. So do you guys come up with a plan? And look, as you had said, JB's been in fine dining, you've been in fine dining, you get menu, you get business, all this other stuff. Pardon me. But do you have a frame of we're going to only sell X amount of pies at a time in order to keep the menu tight?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, we did pop-ups for a year with our Keep the Change concept. We were doing 40 dough ball Fridays. And so that menu pretty much stayed the same, man. I mean, we started with like 9 red pies, 3 white pies, and then a BYO section. That's pretty freaking tight.
Yeah.
You know, no chicken wings, no fryer, no mozzarella sticks. It's just 3 apps, some antipasti, marinated mozz, a little bit of whipped ricotta, and then 2 salads and pizza and Klondike bars for dessert, cold beers.
How do you come up with Klondike bars?
Just straight up Klondike bars, dude. I mean,
who picks that one out of left field?
Well, it was a nod to my grandparents. Every time, I mean, there was always a Klondike bar to be had in that basement freezer.
Wow,
and it was like, you know, keep it simple and like just give the people what they want, you know?
I love the tie back to your grandparents. This is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a very simple way, you know? It was the 80s. We were blue collar folks. It was easy. You spent your time in the woods and you scavenged a Klondike bar out of the grandparents' basement freezer.
As you're building to open 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you were doing traditional ways of generating hype and media to get attention to opening day, but now you have social media and a bunch of other different avenues. How are you trying to build that hype going into those first days of business?
Okay, so here's a crazy thing for you. All of the paid ads, and you know, you go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, whatever you want to do. We had this group of influencers come out to Boom's Pizza. It was like Cleveland Vibes and I don't know, a bunch of influencers. I'm not on social media. I don't know. Right. But dude, in one day, we got 65,000 views of this video that these dudes put out, dudes and ladies. I mean, it was just like that. I've never seen anything like that in my career before. I've never seen it like lines like this. You know, usually in my old world, it was always very difficult to get people in the door. Once they were in the door, you blew their minds, right? But there was rarely a line at the door to get into a white tablecloth-esque experience. So yeah, the viral way to communicate right now. And frankly, I also think what's playing into that is the familiarity of product. Everyone understands pizza. It doesn't require a 10-minute story about, you know, where the reindeer was sourced from and all this stuff. It's just easy, you know? It's just easy. And that's kind of refreshing right now.
Is January one of the worst times to open a pizza restaurant, or does it not matter?
Not so far. I mean,
Of course. Right.
yeah.
But as you're thinking about it and things are lining up, are you like, wow, if I had my druthers, I'd pick June?
I don't know. I don't know that there's seasonality to pizza. People say it's recession proof. It's affordable luxury. Every night is pizza night. These are like common phrases in the industry. Personally, I think the wintertime works out good for us because of the seasonality of our other businesses. So catering company, gangbusters, Memorial Day through Thanksgiving, the farm, the nonprofit, very, very active in the summer and the spring. So I personally wouldn't want to add anything into my plate in like May or June right now, but right now felt like the right time to do it.
So let's run back to the dough thing that you were talking about. And earlier today, I was talking with somebody about pizza dough, and we were just talking nonsense. And I said, geez, I was talking to this guy last night. He started going into this thing about his dough, and I was like, wow, this is a whole different level of pizza geekdom, pizza science, pizza whatever you want to call it. But it's not just some fatso showing up to your shop and slugging down a big pizza all by himself. This is next level pizza knowledge. So if you might be able to explain from a dough perspective, how would your operation differ, or what are you guys doing that probably most other places aren't?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a tip of the hat right out of the gate here. Jonathan Bennett, absolute mad dough scientist. I am quite literally the guy standing over the mixer like, interesting, and then biting one piece, biting the other piece, like, yeah, like this one. Like and understand what's happening, but he lives inside of it from a percentage perspective. So mad props to that dude. So our dough we're working with 64% hydration right now of just water, about another 4% oil. So it brings us to the 67.5%, 68% total hydration of the dough. Now, to orient you to where it's from a style perspective, Neapolitan's like 71 to 75, real soupy stuff, real loose. New York is like 61, 62, right? Real like kind of double baked, stiff, fold a slice in half, walk down the street eating it, right? So we're right in the middle there. So we're making our dough. We mix, we auto-lees, we kind of let it chill out for a second. Then we add the oil and the salt, mix again. And then we do a bulk ferment. So it's actually allowing that yeast to get to work at this stuff. And all of this is contingent upon temperature. So we take the temperature of the room, of the mixing bowl, of flour, and then add in a friction factor of about 5 degrees for the actual dough hook going through the dough for 6 minutes. And then that will tell us what temperature the water needs to be in order to equal a 74-degree desired dough temperature upon completion of mixing. Now, we know that if we get to a 73 bulk 160 ball batch dough, it comes out, put into Lexans, let it sit there about 2.5 hours at 72 degrees at room temp. It moves. It does its thing, right? Eats a bit of that gluten, gets the fermentation kickstarted. Now we cut it up and ball it and put it in the pizza boxes, the dough boxes, wheel it into the cooler, cross-stacked for about 10 minutes to get that ball down from 74 degrees to ideally 60, 65 before we nest the boxes and then let them sit in there for 3 days. So I know this might sound mad scientisty, but it is very close proximal management of time, temperature, hydration, and basically you are a steward of yeast feeding.
Yeah,
that's what you're managing. So fermentation, right, on a grand scale.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of that? Doing. Just some punk kid?
Yeah, some punk kid named Jonathan Bennett. He's 48 years old.
Oh, okay. Thank God. All right. The mad scientist is in charge. I wonder, like, where the delegation starts to happen if, like Timmy or Tommy are the ones now in charge of watching this stuff.
Dude, that's actually a great question because we're talking about that. I'm watching the dough process happen, and JB's like, dude, the math on this is not a prep cook level math. And so I'm coming at it from a problem-solving perspective, like, well, how do we get it to a prep cook level math of like where it's 2 bags, right? And this and that and that. You still measure your temperatures, but we can't make it so masterful that only a master can do it, because now you haven't built yourself a company, you've built yourself a job. So there's a line there, where you're like, okay, this is excellence. Now, how easily can it be replicated by not me?
The coolest thing that I've seen so far on social media, because I haven't been out there yet, is something I didn't even think about. What is it? It's the pizza box. This is not your prototypical off-white square, throw the pizza in, don't even think twice about it. This in itself is a marketing piece. You open up the top, there's, a headless guitar player or, whatever other figure that's in there. You crack it open and you can sit your head in on top of it. And now you're the guitar player or the ballerina or whatever it is. It obviously, the pizza's right there. You could be in front of the Boom's neon sign, take pictures. All those scream of the highest elements of Instagram photos. Now they're going out on social. Now you're becoming even more viral. Was that intentional? Where do you find that box?
Dude, once again, Pizza Expo.
You're kidding.
Dude, there's everything. There was 1,500 vendors at the Pizza Expo in Vegas. 1,500. Wow. So box producers on top of box producers. And we walked past this company. They're a bunch of Aussie bros, and it's called Pizza Bib. And that's their thing. They do custom ones. They have all these different holiday ones, templated ones, whatever. And so what we did was we had a custom dude, kind of like a rock and roll, like kind of Sid Vicious sort of character drawn up. So that's the inside, right? Born of Hard Times, kind of punk rocky. And then we had this guy that does my tattoo work, Nate Kemmerer at Grimheart Tattoo. He designed another box. So we have two boxes in circulation at all times. We have the local artist box and then the Pizza Bib box. And that Pizza Bib boasts like ridiculous numbers of shares every time one of those things gets posted up on social. So it's, you just throw a couple extra cents per box towards your marketing budget, and it just makes sense, man. Leaning into it.
So it's not a big revenue capper there. So you're not spending $2, $3, $4, or $5 more a box just to have that extra feature.
No, and JB being very cost conscious, as soon as we saw it, he's like, oh my God, these things have to be freaking astronomical. And turns out they're not. They're literally like 13 cents more than a regular local craft paper printed box.
Yeah.
So, to stand out from the market, dude, there's a lot of pizza in the market, like anything you can do.
Ben Bebenroth is joining us here talking about Boom's Pizza, the website boomspizza.com, right there in Lakewood. So if you're going to be visiting town, stop through. What are the service hours? So nobody shows up and becomes pissed that they're not open.
Yeah, it could happen. So right now we are Tuesday through Sunday. Tuesday through Thursday, we're 4 to 9. Friday, Saturday, we're 4 to 10.
So dinner service. Make sure you don't show up for lunch, or make sure you're going to wait for the other 3 hours that you're going to be there, right. And then grab it around 4 o'clock or after that. At Boom's Pizza on Instagram. Ben, I really appreciate the look in tonight and continued success. I will plan to get out there at some point for dinner here sooner than later, and then I will give a full, unbiased review, of course, here on the show. Yeah. But as long as you have pepperoni pizza, it's probably going to be a pretty good review.
Dude, the OGP makes up like 50% of our sales. I'm not kidding you. Between that and the Kevin McAllister, which is just our cheese pizza.
Beautiful cheese.
Exactly. A beautiful cheese pizza just for you.
Ben, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Greg. Nice to see you, dude.
You got it. There he is, Ben Bebenroth, Boom's Pizza. Once again, boomspizza.com. At Boom's Pizza is the social. Some of you are like, wait, no social? Ben doesn't have personal social. Boom's Pizza does have social, so make sure that you check that out and give them a follow. And if you come into Cleveland, I'm not sure exactly why you would be coming into Cleveland, on purpose, but if business takes you here, whatever, vacationing in Bomb City, hit me up. We'll go out together. Why not? We went a little long, so I'm going to have to figure out how we're going to do a highly abridged top of the second hour before we get to Bill Purvis, but I will talk to you about Primo Grills first. What do we love about ceramic cookers? We love that they're fuel efficient. We love that you can achieve low and slow temperatures for traditional barbecue meats. We love that you can get rip-roaring hot for high-temperature grilling of steaks and other thin cuts. But what's missing in the everyday lineup of ceramic cookers, the real ability to do true two-zone cooking. Two-zone cooking is important to both professional and backyard cooks alike. It's the best way to manage a fire and cook with confidence. However, getting a two-zone fire in a round ceramic cooker isn't very realistic. Why? Because it's round. And a Primo grill, the game-changing oval design, you all know about this. It really gives you the ability to execute that true two-zone setup that you desire. They also have accessories, only sold through dealers. Hit the website and find one near you, primogrill.com. That's primogrill.com. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram as well. We're back to wrap the first hour. We'll run through the top of the second hour, and then we will get to chicken fried barbecue right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, we thank Ben Bebenroth from Boom's Pizza. Once again, that's boompizzas.com, at Boom's Pizza on Instagram. And we are heading out. This is your abridged first hour wrap, and we will get to an even more abridged second hour. But before that, a little more nostalgia coming your way. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Happy to have you aboard here for the Really Big Barbecue Show.
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
It's got a lot of power.
Come on, Greg. You're asking a guy whose team name is Pellet Envy. So obviously the answer you're going to get is no.
We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Fine. How's it going?
Charbono. It's all about the Charbono, dude. I just like being anywhere with Junior, Senior, and Diva.
Sounds like a whole other type of movie.
Wow. Yeah, really.
You could use it to fight off creeping marauders looking to take your steaks off your grills.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead, and he's in the crackle. But listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
How hot is Kelly Ripa in person?
Kelly Ripa is super hot. She's absolutely delicious.
Oh, yeah.
You could butter base her and plank Twinkies with that girl. She's delish.
Well, to put it briefly, let's just say I went to school.
There's no Robert Porker who's in charge of pig meat out there.
Is it not correct to properly classify you as Harry Sue's pit bitch?
I was his pit bitch for 6 weeks. I have no shame. I was. Keep it hot, keep it clean, keep it lubricated.
Succulent fish. What?
This right here is the premier media alley.
So did you see this one? Tiger Woods has gone ahead and checked into sex rehab. Hey, Tiger, guess what? Everybody's addicted to sex.
I'm shaking like a dog shitting peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now. Who? Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. A little run back of nostalgia there for you as we lead the second hour, but we are quickly going to have to run away from the second hour open. Remember, we're celebrating the beginning of the 15th year of live broadcast, and that intro to the second hour used to be what we would call the After Dark introduction, and then that became the introduction to the second hour when we added the second hour many, many years ago. A lot of old sound drops from previous interviews there. Gary Vaynerchuk, Steven Reichlin, John Marcus, Huck Jr., Huck Sr., Ted Reeder talking about how hot Kelly Ripa was. I believe he said, you could butter baste her and plank Twinkies with that girl. She's delish. One of my favorite lines ever uttered. All right, Bill Purvis is waiting, and we'll get to him here in just 1 second. I'll talk to you quickly about Green Mountain Grill. Some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market today. 2 different lines to choose from, a choice line, a prime line. Peak, Ledge are your prime lines, and the choice is only coming in one size, the Davy Crockett. The Daniel Boone, sorry. Now, if you do want a portable one, you're going to take it on tailgates or out into big parking lots, Trek, that's the one that is most mobile, fits in the back of most trucks, vans, and SUVs. You can go to greenmountaingrill.com, find a dealer near you, because like the Primo cookers, Green Mountain Grill's only sold through dealers. Find that dealer, visit the dealer, get educated, and then pick the one that's best for you. And then, why not pick up the pizza oven insert, right? Because everybody loves high-heat pizza. We're just talking with pizza with Ben Bebenroth. You can do something similar. Now, this would be a wood-fired pizza, not electric like the ones he's using at Boom's Pizza, but gives you that high-heat pizza experience, and it fits on both the Prime and the Choice line. GreenMountainGrills.com is the place to go. That's GreenMountainGrills.com. We're back with Chicken Fried Barbecue right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion being brought to you by Pit Barrel Cooker, the most unbelievable outdoor cooking device on the planet. Currently available in 3 sizes with a host of accessories. Doesn't matter if you're a professional or a beginner. The cooker you want to add to that arsenal, regardless, pitbarrelcooker.com, and let them know the Barbecue Central Show sent you over there. Last week, Pitmaster of Row Cookers came on the show to recap the San Antonio Barbecue Cook-Off as he saw it. And he saw a 14th place overall finish. My guest here in the second hour was Reserve Grand at the event last year, and he did one better here in 2023, taking home the Grand Championship. Here to talk about it and his barbecue journey is the pitmaster of Chicken Fried Barbecue, Bill Purvis, joining me here on the show. Bill, take us back to a year ago where there ended up being quite a little bit of scoring fiasco, one that kept you from walking the stage as Reserve Grand Champion. And look, I understand time has passed. The Grand Championship a couple weeks ago probably heals a little bit of wounds. But as you remember that time, were you a little hot on that deal?
You know, I was a little bit hot on it, but at the same time, too, while they messed up the scoring and they had me listed as 12th, and basically they lost one of the scorecards for the judges on ribs, and it bumped me up to Reserve Grand. But the worst part about it was the guy that was Reserve Grand, a guy named Larry Zimmerman, he had to move down to 3rd, and man, he's a really sweet, he's an older gentleman. He's probably in his 70s, and it was probably the best finish he's ever had, and now he's being booped down. And hey, you got to give that buckle to this young guy out of Houston, and he had to give up the buckle, the aprons, and everything. So it was a bit bittersweet in that sense. That and the guy's a super guy, so I hated to, I couldn't really celebrate the way I wanted to, just because at the same time, I knew he was having to relinquish everything. So
there's been a few times over the course of the show where there has been some type of scoring discrepancy, and I'll follow up with whoever's on the show that week and going, just like I ask you, were you pissed, or, isn't this something that could have not happened, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. And it always comes back to, in the end, a true barbecue man or woman doesn't want the award that they didn't earn. They'll happily take the 12th place award if that's where they should be. They'll happily be upgraded to Reserve or Grand if that's where the numbers say they're going to be, and you're following right along suit with that.
Yeah, I mean, and he was very gracious about it all. I mean, he was, he wanted to make sure that I got the buckle, and he sent it to me directly versus going through channels of sending it back to IBCA and relying on them to mail it to me. He's, man, I'll just give it to you direct. So, no, he was very gracious, and he's a great guy. So, but yeah, I mean, it was great to go back there and actually grand it this year and do get to walk the stage. I never would have predicted that, but that's how the cards laid out this this time. So pretty crazy. So
Bill Purvis joining us here on the show. ChickenFriedBBQ.com is website, Instagram at ChickenFriedBBQ. As I'd mentioned in the open, Doug was on last week. You were in the chat room and probably heard most of that interview. So let's take a look back from your perspective. First off, are you an ancillary freak like our pals Doug and Jennifer, or are you just more there for the show and that's it?
I'm just there for the main meats.
Yeah.
So I did do some ancillaries just because it's San Antonio, but it's definitely not. I did a steak and I did the open category, but I'm not a dessert cook or, I don't have any of those like Doug does. And I've tasted several of Doug's desserts at Houston last year and the one this year before he won, and it was delicious. But it's not something that I'm a one-man team, so I'm not sitting there trying to do a cheesecake while I'm messing with the brisket, so.
You cook a few different sanctioning bodies as well. You do some, I think Texas is up to 75 different sanctioning bodies within the state.
Maybe 76, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, KCBS, which we saw you on TV there for Barbecue USA as they were covering that in season 1. Is it tough to go from sanctioning body to sanctioning body, or do you enjoy those marked differences because it keeps your barbecue skills that much sharper?
I feel like KCBS is probably a little bit easier just because you're cooking to a certain specification. You're in Texas, you're cooking to people off the street. One person may have seen pit masters and they're looking for a certain type of rib, where someone who's never judged before wants a fall off the bone rib and they think that's perfect barbecue. So, you kind of, you don't know what spec you're cooking to as far as Texas goes, but in KCBS, man, those judges are trained, and once you figure out the specification, I feel like it's just a touch easier in that sense, because like I said, if you overcook your brisket or overcook your ribs, where in Texas, you don't know, you can overcook something and still walk. So.
From a mindset standpoint, then in Texas, are you more or less cooking with whatever you like and then hoping the judges like it? Or you can't do that at KCBS. That's like the standard rule. You never cook how you like it for KCBS. You're cooking for the judges. You're not cooking for yourself, where it might be antithetical going over to Texas.
No, it's the same. I don't necessarily cook what I like. I try to cook what I feel like is going to score. It's cost a lot of money for these competitions and meats and all the rest of it. So if mushy ribs are going to score, overcooked mushy ribs are going to score, that's what I'm going to turn in. And that's usually what scores in Texas on ribs. It's a very different rib in Texas than it is in KCBS. So you need to overcook them for sure.
We can mention the results here in just a second, but overall, as you look back over the win at San Antonio, how do you gauge your cook compared to other ones you've had in Texas here recently?
Yeah, it was here lately. My ribs have been doing really well. I switched over to a pellet grill, and the first, I normally run drums, but I'd switched over probably about 2 months ago and got a first place rib on the pellet grill.
Do you mention the pellet grill by name, or you just say pellet grill?
It's a RecTech 590. So,
all right.
I got a first place rib, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, got another first place rib. So I've been doing really well here lately on the ribs, but yeah, it's just my normal food that I normally turn in. And, I went back to kind of, I guess in barbecue, a lot of people take notes, but I feel like to some degree I have a decent memory, and I remembered exactly what rib I ran at San Antonio last year, which got 8. I remembered the sauce combo and all that. So I'm just going to, instead of trying something new or whatever, I'm just going to run the exact same combo that I did, knowing that if it didn't, or if I ran something new, I would kick myself for not running the same combo. So, and it worked out. So
you get a 3rd in brisket, you get the 5th in rib, so you actually do 3 places better from last year to this year, over that 8th place rib. So 2 calls typically in this kind of a contest really puts you in a decent position to take the whole thing down. As you're called, I'm not sure exactly how that works. Is it a ticketing system with Lone Star, or are they actually calling your name?
It is a ticketing system. It is a ticketing system, and you kind of keep track in your head as a cook. Who else has walked as far as how many points everybody has. So it's a little bit in the sense that whenever I got that call for 3rd place brisket, I knew I was in the lead for GC. And there was only 2 calls left, 2nd and 1st. And as long as 2nd place and 1st place didn't have calls, I already knew I was going to grand. And sure enough, when I was up there, second place had already walked up there because they're taking pictures and all that for every call. So by the time I started to walk back to my seat, I was congratulating AJ Garza, who had gotten second place brisket, and back to my seat, I hear him call out for first place brisket. So at that point, man, I already knew. Where in KCBS, you don't know. You don't know. But in Lone Star, people are doing the points and they can keep up. And I'm sure at least most of the cooks keeping up with the points. So now you just wait for them to call your name.
So how much of a redemption is it, or how much of a added joy is it to go from reserve one year, following that up with a grand the next year? Like you said, it's probably nothing that you're expecting, so to actually pull it off at that event, which has really grown in popularity and cachet, especially over the last decade or so, and that's quite a feat.
Yeah, and I really was. In the sense that IBCA, they were the ones that had the scoring mishap, and they did make it right. And it wasn't until Tuesday, the following week, it was 3 days after the contest, and they told San Antonio, so they did the right thing. And so I wasn't necessarily super bitter at them in the sense that some organizations may have swept it under the rug. I don't know, but IBCA did come out and say, hey, we've screwed up. And unfortunately, I think it's, they chose Lone Star this year. So that could have been their demise of, sanctioning that contest over the last 15 years. Yep. That, at the benefit of me, they went and held their hand and said they screwed up. So,
Bill Purvis joining us here on the show. Chicken Fried Barbecues Pitmaster, chickenfriedbbq.com, the website, and at Chicken Fried BBQ. Where are you going to be at next?
I am headed down to the Valley, which is on the Rio Grande there in Texas, Mercedes, Texas. So they've got $50,000. There's about, I think, 250 teams. So it's a big purse. And all the usual suspects will be there, plus probably 200 more. So.
What's the competition schedule look like for you for the first half of the year? You run pretty hard?
I do. I cook about every weekend, so I have my own rub and my own seasoning out, and so obviously, I don't sell too much sitting on the couch on the weekends. So if I'm out cooking and doing well, I usually end up getting more sales. So San Antonio's been good in that sense. So a couple more stores have picked it up, which has been great.
Will people buy from you right there on site?
Yeah, I have that a lot. So I do bring it with me as well. So there is.
Give me a dime bag of chicken fried barbecue rub.
Yeah, they will. They'll buy shirts. The shirts are pretty popular. So I'm usually getting messages. People want me to bring them a shirt. So, which is fine. So
for the expense of a competition, like, do you have the opportunity of breaking even between the sales that you're making over a competition, or not? Not really.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Just in my rub sales alone, they pretty much pay for my competition season. So rub sales alone, there's several stores in Texas, and Texas is a little bit secluded from the rest. We have competitions every weekend all year long. We don't have a off season, if you will. So and like I said, my rib rub has done really well, and a lot of guys like to use it. And I think first place ribs at San Antonio Rodeo, and he said it on another show. He used my rub, so it's been good, and I've been really fortunate in that sense. So,
how do you find out about competition barbecue?
I was working for a logistics company, and we were sponsoring a Houston rodeo team. And I would take all of our clients from Schlumberger and National Oil Varco, all these guys wanted to go down to the rodeo. So we would sponsor a tent, get wristbands. And I don't know if you've ever been, Greg, but it's like, every tent is its own nightclub.
Yeah.
So there's, ice, shot blocks, all kinds of stuff. So people there's 200,000 people that show up to this thing. And you need a wristband to get into a tent. And so we would sponsor this team, and the guy that runs that team was, every year, hey man, why don't you come cook with me? So I went and did a couple of, and we went from the Houston rodeo, and then I'm cooking with him at, 40 guys in a parking lot. It's a lot different than the rodeo, but he would cook all year long and then obviously cook the rodeo. So, So I started doing a couple with him, and then thought, man, I can do this myself. I don't necessarily need to.
He was just asking you to come
be
out and
teamed up
cook,
with you.
like you weren't cooking
Yeah.
in competitions otherwise. Did you just
No.
have a
I mean,
look
I'd
about
cook.
you, like, hey, this guy looks like he wants to cook, so I'm going to invite him?
Well, I'd cooked my whole life. I mean, I'd never did any competition, but I've cooked plenty of briskets. I think my first brisket was I was 21 or 22 years old. So, but I'd cooked my whole, but I just never did any competition. I thought I might be more interested in doing catering if I ever wanted to do something. But once I started getting calls, and I think my very first contest, I got a first place rib, which was enough to RGC the contest. I was like, man, I'm going to keep chasing these trophies in cash. So,
You have a day job that you have to contend with as well, running like this?
I do not know. I worked for a logistics company, and during COVID, I had a small percentage of shares, and I sold my shares. So it was a nice enough a nest egg for me to take a couple of years off and figure out what I want to do. And at the same time, I came out with my rub, and that's done really well. So I'm in, I think I'm going to try to make a run at making some money in barbecue. I got online classes, and they're good with the Barbecue Champs. I don't know if you're familiar with that site at all. So
yeah. How do you get hooked up with that?
yeah.
They just reach out to you and ask if you want to do some videos?
Yeah, they've been reaching out. They chased me for a good year and a half, as far as wanting me to come. And I really didn't want to give out my recipes, and at that time, financially I was doing okay. But at this time, my mom said, hey, you might want to think about getting another job. Okay, maybe we'll go to Barbecue Champs and see if we can't get some additional income coming in. And it's been really good.
So how does that work out? I remember, it seems like 10, 12 years ago, barbecue cooking classes were all the rage. Everybody, you win a grand champion one weekend, they were setting up shop the next weekend, giving out all their secrets, charging people $400, $500, $600, $700 a head to get in there to learn everything that they did. So because they won the week before, does Barbecue Champs give you like a front of so much money, and then you're getting
it's
some
a
kind of a
split.
recurring revenue?
Which we split. It's it's a split as far as I get the majority of it, and he gets the minority of. So whoever, if someone signs up for a class and pays for the class, I think it's maybe $599, $600 for a class. So we have a percentage split, and but at the same time, equally, he handles the website. He handles all the web hosting, the Facebook ads, the filming. He hired the whole film crew to be out there, which there's 3 or 4 guys out there, for 2 days filming. So I know that cost a pretty penny. So he's got to sell so many classes before he's in the red, or out of the red, if you will. So
that doesn't preclude you from setting up chicken fried barbecue classes if you wanted to, though, on top of that, right?
No.
Right.
No, I can still, our agreement is I can do two a year. He doesn't want me out doing classes every month after he's paid all these camera guys. So, but at the same time, two classes a year. So, but I really don't want to spend a weekend teaching a class. I'd rather be out cooking, trying to win. So when people ask me, hey, when I want to do a shadow class, well, I just point them to the videos, because they can rewind it. They can watch it. They forget something, they can go back. You can't do that if you just go to a regular class. So
ever thought about opening up a food trailer like our pal Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue, who left a cushy corporate job for like 75 years and just decided to throw it all, caution to the wind, and go into barbecue food trailer business?
No, not at all. I don't want to do. I don't want to do a food truck at all.
Fast enough.
No, man, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work. I just want to cook one brisket. I don't want to cook 20. So, but yeah, no, I'd rather try to sell rubs or sauces or seasonings, and like I said, and have something kind of working when I'm sleeping. I wake up in the morning and I've got orders. So I'd rather that kind of deal as opposed to having to cook a whole bunch of briskets and serve people.
As I'd mentioned a little bit ago, you were featured, one of the teams featured on an episode of Barbecue USA. There was Barbecue Pitmasters preceding that, which really seemed to generate interest in a whole generation of competition barbecuers and really invigorate interest in the backyarders, whether they wanted to make that additional step to competition or not, but certainly brought their interest into stepping up the backyard game, if nothing else. Do you think that this TV show has the potential of having that effect too, or have we been through the pitmaster's realm and we're probably not going to touch that again?
I don't know. It's his first season. They're out filming season 2, so it'll really depend, I think, on what they focus on for the next couple of seasons. If they get more than I know like I said, I know they're filming season 2. They've been at a couple of comps that I've been at, and I've spoken with both Michael and the producer, and a lot of this season 2, I think they're focusing on some of the jackpots and just not just chicken, ribs, brisket, and pork. So they're trying to get, more of the, there's a lot of jackpots, a lot of ancillaries and stuff like that. So, but it's just really, I think the competition guys love it, but I don't know how much of the general public is taken to the show, as far as in my world, it's full of competition guys, and we're all, everybody's loving it. And of course I show up to a competition and there are people, hey, I saw you on TV, so, but I don't know, as far as the general public, how much they're into it. You look on Food Network, they get beat up pretty bad with all these game shows that they are constantly doing. So social media is pretty hard on them, I think. So,
what do you think about competition barbecue in general right now? Have we seen whatever the precipice was, and we're kind of in the flattened? This is just going to be where. Wait. Thought I hit pause on that. Do you think we're kind of flattened out and this is just where normal is now, or do you think that there is a possibility of stepping up at some point?
Man, I think there's a possibility of stepping up, but it's going to take, some of the guys that are kind of leaders within the competition to, Rod Gray's one, he's the head of KCBS now. We've got to make some sort of changes to get more of the public, because competition has changed where everybody's in their trailers and no one sees anything. And, so we're going to have to figure out a way. And I think there are guys out there that are pretty smart and working on a few different deals to be maybe kind of expo, what competition is, to where we can get more of the public involved. So, but yeah, I think Rod Gray said something. He sees it every 7 years. It kind of does a little cycle, competition barbecue, where it gets popular and one of these shows comes out every 7 years or so. So, I'm a lot newer than Rod. So
you down with World Food Championships or no?
I did it 2 years ago and I made the finalist, and man, I didn't do well in the finals. I finished 10th out of the 10. So there was 10 finalists, but I just cooked chicken wings because I was like, man, I'm not a SCA steak cook. Everybody's doing steak and shrimp. And man, I looked at the prize purse. It was $500 for 10th place. It was $500 all the way up to 5th place. So I said, man, I'm just going to cook some chicken wings. So it wasn't a bright move, really. So, but, I think 9th place cooked, $200 Wagyu steaks and lobster. And I spent $37 on chicken wings. So
better ROI on your end, for sure.
That's right. So,
Bill Purvis joining us here on the show. He's the pitmaster of Chicken Fried Barbecue, your 2023 San Antonio Grand Champ, following that from his reserve Grand Champ the year before. Bill, anything else you'd like to mention or promote on the way out?
No, I'm good. I appreciate the time, Greg. Thanks a lot.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming in.
And, enjoyed it. Yeah.
When did, I'm sorry, I should have asked you this right off in the first place. YouTube question of the evening. How long have you been a Centralite? 1 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, or 11 plus years?
I'm a 1 to 5.
All right, I'll take it. However, doesn't matter. I'll take 1 to 5. I'll take 11 plus, whatever. How did you find the show?
I think probably Smokin' Joe. I found it on YouTube from Smokin' Joe because, me and him kind of started at the same time. He started his YouTube channel and I started doing YouTube as well, but I quickly jumped in. I left YouTube and just went straight to competition. So it's been less than 5 years.
Wow.
But I would always see him in the chat. So I would ding around with him in the YouTube chat. So it's always
fun. Joe, your commission check for getting a new listener in, new watcher, certainly appreciate, especially the status of Bill Purvis, which we certainly appreciate. Bill, appreciate the look back and continued success.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
You got it. There he is, Bill Purvis, Chicken Fried Barbecue at Chicken Fried BBQ on Instagram and the website chickenfriedbbq.com. As he had mentioned, he is selling rubs, and they are going like gangbusters. So stop on over. If you see him at a competition, sounds like he's selling right out of the trailer, or you can go to the website, chickenfriedbbq.com, and pick it up there, and then let me know what you think. Always love new rubs. So, now we have just a little bit of time for me to go back and get to some other stuff, get you some certain updates that I know you've been waiting for. Week 29 was in the books last week with David Leans, davidleans.com/BBQ, where you go to become a healthier barbecuer. Come on, let's do it. So I had followed the program to a painstaking degree. I say painstaking just for exaggeration. And what happened at the end of last week? I ate all my meals. I didn't go any cheating or anything like that. Hit all the workouts, time under tension, this and that. Guess who got a reward at the beginning of the week? Me! I get to eat more potatoes. I get to eat more rice. Again, my diet with David is the same thing all the time. But that's because I don't want to have to think about what to eat. I want somebody to tell me. And he is telling me. So, well, I'm not necessarily seeing the gains on the scale. There's visible differences that are taking place. But I think we're now hitting peak stride. So, I'm only 29 weeks ahead of you. You can step it up. You can live a better version of you. And the best part is you get support from David McDowell. He checks in with you multiple times a week. If you have questions, you can just text him. You can give him a call, schedule all that stuff. And then if you want to change up what you want to eat, you just tell him what you like. He'll meet you where you're at. This is the best thing. You can sign up for somebody else for $500 a month and you get a bunch of canned BS and it's not going to work. They're just taking your money. David wants to meet you where you're at and then take you down the path. He doesn't want to be your coach forever. He just wants to get you in the right lifestyle for you to take over, and away you go. davidleans.com/BBQ. That's davidleans.com/BBQ. And we are back with an open segment. So if you have any reaction to Bill's segment or Boom's Pizza or Malcom Reed, shoot it up there on the YouTube or the Facebook, and I will flash it up there and react. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Let's get back to a guy who has more experience giving you his opinion than he actually has cooking. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. We thank Bill Purvis for joining us last segment. ChickenFriedBBQ.com is the website. Follow him at ChickenFriedBBQ on Instagram. This portion of the show brought to you by me. Have a Gen Z or a millennial that's afraid to use the telephone as a real telephone? Put them in touch with me. I'll teach them how to use that phone and feel confident doing it. You don't have to get all shaky or nervous when the phone rings because you're like, I got to answer that? I'd rather text. Sometimes voice communication will put you in the lead in life, and I will teach you how to use the phone to close it. No, it's not a sales thing. However, if you have a kid that is scared of using the phone like a phone, put them in touch with me. The hourly rate is extraordinary. However, what aren't you willing to invest in making sure that your millennial or Gen Y, Gen Z, Gen whatever, who's afraid to use a phone? Studies done on this, by the way. I will help them get over that. Just hit me up, Greg, at thebbqcentralshow.com. I was going to lead with this, but then I forgot. But then I remembered that tonight we are entering our 15th year of live shows here on the Barbecue Central Network, beginning at BBS Talk Radio, which is now LA Talk Radio, latalkradio.com, or you can find their app on all the different app stores, LA Talk Radio, for a bunch of internet talk. It was never on a radio show. My wife still calls it the radio show. I've never been on the radio, not even for 1 second of my life with this show ever. Never. I think 2 years ago, I almost got in on some kind of a syndication deal at some BS radio station in Texas, but that never worked out. But it's never been, it used to be called the Barbecue Central radio show, but it was only ever on the internet. So I was like, why am I keep calling it a barbecue radio show? Forget it. It's just going to be the Barbecue Central show. And then we dumped radio, got the relogo, all that stuff. And this is where we've been ever since. Also, completely unrelated to the anniversary, I am in the process, finally, of getting a brand new website made. I have no idea when that's actually going to launch. However, I have secured a vendor to work with. 50% of me thinks I'm being completely scammed. I haven't given any bank account stuff, but I have paid some invoices. Communication is like a little better than spotty, but it wasn't enough money to make me really pissed off yet. But I would imagine in the next couple weeks or so, we should have a completely refreshed Barbecue Central website, which is great because the one that's out there right now is quite frankly deplorable. It's an embarrassment. I apologize as a human that has internet space that you have to show up to that website if you even go there. I'm not into making a completely over-the-top website because I'm not about website foot traffic. I would rather you just find the show on one of the podcast platforms and subscribe that way, and that's the only way you have access to me. I don't care about the website per se, but I would certainly like to have it be a little bit more easy on the eyes. Lance, don't go look at it now. I'm forbidding you. Don't. It's just not great, and also it's not good. So this is where I was going to start at the top of the show earlier, but we got into reliving the last 15 years of live shows. You know, never has it become more apparent to me that the topic which will forever dominate this show has nothing to do with barbecue or grilling at all. Boat racing, every other topic this show has ever seen, cats pissing on my shit. And by the way, the saga continues because within the first 7 days of being here in the Barbecue Central studio, one of those cats has already made an attempt on the new mixer's life, and I'm not even kidding. As I had mentioned last week, I did put a blanket over for protection. Somebody said in the chat last week, Ron, I believe Ron said you could buy covers for mixers, and I don't have that. I didn't get it. You know, to be honest, I didn't even look for it. But I put a nice Cleveland Guardians blanket over it. Nice protection. Fluffed it a little bit so it could still get some heat release. But I noticed a few days ago what appeared to be a wet spot on the blanket. So what did I do? I bent down, gave a little sniffy sniff. You can bet your sweet ass that it was cat piss. However, as you can tell, no electronics or sound gear were injured in that assassination attempt, but I will be putting my handyman skills to work right this coming weekend as I fashion some kind of piss protector out of one of the extra Rubbermaid totes or tubs that we have here in the basement. So what that's going to look like is I'm going to take it, I'm going to invert it, put it over the mixer, and then I'm going to cut out some slots. Now, these slots aren't going to be right at the bottom. I'm going to locate them maybe a quarter to halfway up. Not super thin, enough to accommodate the cables that I need to pass through there. Or maybe just big holes, enough to fit the cables through there, and then run them in. And then at the top, like where, because these are all just molded, so where the top, which is actually the bottom, starts to round over into the sides, I have to run a bunch of holes in that part in order to allow heat to escape. But you can't put them directly on the top, which would be, or the bottom, which is the top. Can't put holes on the flat part because, of course, then I would immediately be scared that a cat would jump on top of this piss protector tub and just piss all over the top of it, and then the pee would find its way into the holes and then drip like piss rain down onto the mixer, killing it. We can't have that. As we've learned in the last 2 weeks, the Behringer XR18 is in limited supply, as in I think I probably got the last one available for sale anywhere in America. And the new ones are coming in until June, which is very, very troubling. So I have to come up with this piss protector tub. I have to have venting because the mixer does generate a little bit of heat because there are some electronics and computer processing in it. It's also an audio card for a USB on top of being an analog mixer on top. So got to let the heat escape. But can't have big holes. Can't have holes on the top. Got to have holes on the side. See, that's not going to be able to piss on the side. At least I think. So that's what's going to be happening this weekend. And I'll let you know. I'll take pictures. I'll document it all on Instagram because that's what we like. Doug Scheiding saying, don't use a blanket. That is encouraging them to pee. Use plastic. It is?
Get that big stuff out of here.
Plastic? Why? They wouldn't pee on plastic? It appears, Doug. By the way, Doug is a unabashed cat lover. He has a couple different cats. Now, Doug's advice coming from the guy who has corralled no less than 12 wild raccoons out of his house.
Get that big stuff out of here.
Out of his house. Doug, you giving me cat advice and not being able to keep raccoons from getting under your bed and having to take them out of your house. I don't know if I can take that. I don't know if I can take it. However, I do happen to have plastic here, and this is what we're talking about. Well, look at this. It appears Samuel Zion is saying, where's Sam the cooking guy? Great question. If that's your real name. As some of you noticed in the chat, there was no mention of Sam the cooking guy, who's usually in the second hour, 10:14 or 14 past the second hour, as we don't like to give time frames to catch ever get on the real radio. Sam has a new book coming out, and they were shooting pictures for that, and he had given me plenty of advance notice that there was no way he was going to be able to make it, and that I should do whatever it takes to find a guest in replacement. And that's how we got Bill Purvis on tonight. Bill was actually slated to go in this portion, but due to extreme advance notice on Sam's part, which most guests don't actually give me, backing out. Typically, they're backing out only hours before the show actually goes to air. I was able to touch base with Bill and say, Bill, can you run at 10:14? He said, absolutely. And there you go. So that's what I'm going to be up to as far as my weekend and building a cat piss protector. I will also include Doug's expert opinions and suggestions here, but I believe, Doug, at least my cats will piss on plastic. It doesn't matter if it's plastic or blanket or a loaded gun. They'll just pee on it because, that's what my cats do. Some of the other things I didn't get to last week that I will try and get to now. Number one, I don't know if anybody else saw this, but Daniel Vaughn, and I'm going to ask him about the next time he's on, but it's probably not going to be for another couple months, was trying to start some new trend, but it appears that if you're from Texas, this is an old thing, but I didn't even know about it. He was talking about the best slice of brisket is the 4th slice of brisket from a new full packer. First time I've ever heard of it. There was video on it. They're counting 4 slices in. They're pulling it out. Oh, this one's magic. As somebody who doesn't cook a lot of briskets, namely me, I would ask a guy who's probably cooking a lot of briskets these days, Smoking Joe's Pit Barbecue. Joe, if somebody walked up to your trailer and said, Joe, I would like the 4th slice of brisket. I want to see you open a brand new brisket. Don't use the one that's already open. Open a brand new one and then cut in. I want the 4th slice, and it's probably on the point end, not the lean end. Is that something that you would even entertain for 1 second? Are you charging $9 a slice at that point? Would you sell just the fourth slice, or is that patently ridiculous? I thought that might catch on. I was probably wrong. But a lot of people from Texas going, you have a barbecue show and you don't even know the fourth slice of brisket thing. I didn't know it. How about this? Audience survey time, since we're all together here just talking between us gals. Instead of asking through a traditional survey, because many people don't actually fill them out if I send them through emails or links or whatever, I'm asking you here on this show, what would you like to hear this year? What topics do you want more info on? What guests would you like to hear more from? What other niche hobbies, maybe not related to live fire at all, would you like me to look into and cover? Who would you like to hear less of? I want to know. Who should I ditch? Who should I bring on as a regular? Give it all to me. The good, the bad, the ugly. You want more competition stuff. You want more round tables. You want more backyard topics. Let your voice be heard. And, as always, I will tailor the show to what you want to hear. Certainly, I will continue to steer it how I want to steer it, but I also want to make sure that I'm providing the maximum amount of value to you, my faithful listeners and watchers. So shoot me an email. Let me know, Greg at the BBQ Central Show. Want to hear your thoughts, what you'd like to hear in 2023. Email from Greg. Email for me. Hey, Greg, for your open segment tonight, I'd love to hear you talk about your experience with offsets. In the past, you said the food coming from your Lang was levels better than anything else you had recently said. You had no longer, man, I'm getting lost in the words here. I apologize. Better than anything else. And I think you recently said you no longer have the cooker. Would like to hear your experience and views on offsets. I believe that was from Alan, by the way. Alan, thank you. Happy to give you my thoughts and opinions. Like I said, the best barbecue I ever eat is coming off of offsets. It's not just mine. It is, if I'm at a restaurant, they have an offset cooker. For whatever reason, my palate seems to jive with offset barbecue. It's great. It's noticeably different from when I cook on a pellet cooker or a charcoal-driven cooker. The Lang was sucking extraordinarily more air through it. And to me, it's just pressing flavor into the meat. So when I was able to, and I was, luckily enough, able to compare ribs, brisket, pork butts off of offset, I was able to experience them off of pellet cookers and off of bullet-style, charcoal-based, charcoal-driven with wood chunks. All delicious, but if I had to pick, I know the best flavor was coming off of the Lang or off of the offset because of the whole way it's operating. The live fire, the way it's moving there, the amount of air that it's moving through. You can see it going, the velocity of the smoke going through the smokestack, the building of the fire, the clean fire, the management of how that air is being sucked in through the firebox. And then there was like a whole romance about it too. Being the old guy here in the room now, I hate to say that, I do think that if you're getting into barbecue now, there is certainly many more options for you to not have to learn fire management at any degree. I think that's a rite of passage. Like when your dad takes you out and teaches you how to change a tire. I mean, my dad never did that.
Get that freak stuff out of here.
But, you know, a lot of dads take their kids out. This is how you change a tire. You got to know how to do that. Well, in live fire, to me, it's not a bad idea to know how to start a charcoal cooker and then maintain that fire. It's not a bad idea to learn how to run an offset, build it from scratch, that fire, bring it up, get the coals right, and then maintain that fire, be able to pull the coals back, push the coals forward, increase temp, decrease temp, know how the whole draft works. Once you know, that's a skill set you have. If you never learn it, if you go somewhere, you can't just cook on everything. That also starts to lend into where we throw around the term pitmaster. If you can cook on anything, you're certainly much more apt to be able to call yourself a pitmaster or be considered a pitmaster than if you're just plugging something in and setting a temperature. You're missing out on a whole portion of live fire that is great. And as I've always said before, there's something romantic about going out and pitching logs in an offset. Is it labor intensive? Yes. Is it economical? Probably not. Does it take a lot of time? It can. But I was just having a conversation with my pal from the Howard Stern Show, Jason Kaplan, who's also a Lang owner, and we both happen to be marveling at the fact that you can get a rack or 2 or 3 or 4 racks of ribs done St. Louis style, 3 pounds, 4 pound racks. If you're running that thing around 275, in my Lang, I had the shorter version. That thing just lived 275. You could get racks of ribs done in 3 hours. So in a lot of instances, you're not camped out all day long there, because that's one of the big things about long cooks and offsets. Oh, you gotta pitch wood, you gotta pitch sticks, blah blah. I found that to be attractive. Is it efficient, easier to go ahead and fire up any of the pellet cookers? The Green Mountain Grill, yes. The Pit Barrel, yes. All that's much easier. But I also have the skill of fire management, which I think is, again, important. That's something we're kind of losing at this stage. But as long as I'm around, I'll talk about it. Try and help you guys out. Make sure that you're doing it right. Not barbecue right, but doing live fire right. Or at least considering it. And if you don't want to do it, I don't care. Just listen to the show. That's it. All right, one more read to go, and then we'll call it a 15th anniversary. Big Papa Smokers, the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. A curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies. Getting you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at the website. Pitmaster approved by Sterling, Big Papa Ball himself. From the award-winning rubs and sauces to the American-made grills and smokers, they have something for every type of outdoor cook. You know the sauces, you know the rubs. Popular flavors like Sweet Money Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, 13 perfectly balanced flavors of rubs that transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. Also the owner of Granny's Barbecue Sauce. So if you're looking for a new go-to sauce that would please everybody, Granny's traditional yet powerful flavors remind us of why we fell in love with barbecue in the first place. Also, they're selling these pits, and you know this. Are you looking for a versatile smoker that's easy to use? Check out that Mac 2-star General Pellet Cooker. Big Papa Smokers, the exclusive Mac dealer, even offering special packages. Not a fan of pellet smokers? Not sure what grill you need? Come on. Call them and ask questions. 877-828-0727. That's 877-828-0727. Or shop their website at bigpapasmokers.com. That's BIGPOPPA smokers.com. We're back to wrap it right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Craig Rimpey.
And we are back. Realtor to the stars out there in Hawaii, Lance Owens weighing in. Missed the first 15 minutes. Happy 15th anniversary. Thank you, Lance. Thank you for being a loyal Centralite. Before we go tonight, we will review the poll this week. How long have you been a Centralite, podcast or live? 1 to 5 years is 50%, 6 to 10 years, 27%, and 11 plus years is 23%. So 50% of you have been with me 6 years or longer. How about you guys? Love it. Appreciate your loyal patronage, listenership, and general fandom, if we can say it like that. All the way back in the first hour was Malcom Reed. ToBBQRight.com, his website and associated social media channels. And then we talked with Ben Bebenroth for an extended 35 past the hour segment, carrying us into the second hour. BoomsPizza.com is the website, at Booms Pizza social media. And then we finished it out with Bill Purvis from Chicken Fried Barbecue, chickenfriedbbq.com, his website, or on Instagram at chickenfriedbbq. Big show planned for you next week. Meathead will be around, and Robert Moss will be around, and a number of other guests as well, so stay tuned for that. Once again, appreciate you hanging with me here as we enter in our 15th year of live shows. Appreciate you hanging all the way through it, live, podcast, or otherwise, which I certainly like. Hey, there's, looky here. Kent State celebrity Madison May right there. Hi, Dad. Hey, Maddie. Now go to bed. It's late. Appreciate everybody hanging with me through podcasts, through live shows as we enter in our 15th year, and we will continue on for the foreseeable future. We have no reason to stop. I have content ready to go. So how do I always leave you? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. This is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Bye-bye.
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.